Okay, some more translating from English to truth functional logic. And all of these sentences have a not in them. So that's the main thing that I'll be showing you. Okay, so starting here with the first one, Sarah is not at the gym and Joshua is not reading. This we just do as not S and not J. Okay, and when we have a not that applies to just a single atomic sentence, like we do, say, here, then typically we would put the not in the sentence. So we go from Sarah is at the gym to Sarah is not at the gym. When the not applies to more than just a single atomic sentence, it's often best to use it is not the case that. So that's what I think we have in all the rest of these other sentences. Okay, so for number 2 here, we have it is not the case that both Sarah is at the gym and Joshua is reading. So we have a both and an and. So this part of the sentence is going to be a conjunction, and then the not is going to go outside these parentheses that I've put right here on the English sentence. So we start with Sarah is at the gym and Joshua is reading, S and J, and then the not goes right there outside this first parentheses. Okay, so again, this not applies to this whole conjunction. Number 3, if it is not the case that either Kate is at work or Joshua is reading, then Sarah is at the gym. Okay, so our sentence here is a conditional. It starts with an if. We have our then right here. So this part is the antecedent, and then Sarah's at the gym is the consequent. So we know we're going to finish with arrow S. Before the arrow, let's see, we have it is not the case that either or. Okay, so this part here is a disjunction. So the antecedent is actually pretty similar to what we just did for number 2. We're going to have Kate or K wedge J, parentheses, and then we want this not to be outside the parentheses. It applies to this whole disjunction. And then, of course, this whole thing is the antecedent. So arrow S. Number 4, Joshua is reading if and only if it is not the case that both Kate is at work and Sarah is at the gym. Okay, this looks a little bit complicated because we have a lot going on right here, but it's actually not too bad. So this if and only if tells us that this part here, Joshua is reading, is going to come before the double arrow, and then all of this is going to come after the double arrow. So let's investigate what we have here after the double arrow. It is not the case that both Kate is at work and Sarah is at the gym. Okay, so that's our conjunction. And the not is going to go right here. And then we just finish by putting the double arrow and J. Okay, and I should say if we want to put parentheses around the whole thing, for any of these we can. Okay, 5A. It is not the case that both Kate is at work and Joshua is reading if and only if Sarah is at the gym. All right, so this sentence is actually ambiguous, meaning there are 2 ways to translate the English sentence into truth functional logic. And that's actually not what we want, but I wrote the sentence, I realized it was ambiguous, but I thought I would just leave it in for teaching purposes. So we'll go through it, although you won't ever see a sentence like this that's ambiguous on a quiz or a test. But anyway, okay, so it's not the case that both Kate is at work and Joshua is reading if and only if Sarah is at the gym. All right, so it is not the case that both Kate is at work and Joshua is reading if and only if Sarah is at the gym. Okay, so this is a biconditional, or well, we have an if and only if here anyway. So this is going to come after the double arrow, And then here we have both and, so we know that this part is a conjunction. So we're going to have K and J double arrow S. All right, and actually let me copy this down again. Now the ambiguity arises because it's not clear from the English sentence if the not, it is not the case that applies to just this K and J, or if it applies to the entire biconditional. There's no way to tell from the English sentence. So one way to translate this English sentence into truth functional logic is to put the not right there. And so if we do it that way, then as I just said, the not's just going to apply to the conjunction. Or we can put parentheses around the entire biconditional and put the not here, in which case the not is going to apply to the entire thing. But again, we have no way of knowing which of these two interpretations of the English sentence is the intended one. All right, now here for 5b, Sarah is at the gym if and only if it is not the case that both Kate is at work and Joshua is reading. Okay, so if what was intended in 5a was this interpretation here, then we can represent that same meaning with 5b. So what we've done here, you'll see, is just flip what comes before and after the double arrow. So we have our if and only if there. Sarah is at the gym, and then it is not the case that both Kate is at work and Joshua is reading. Okay, so this will be, well, both and, so K and J. It is not the case that if and only if, and then S. Okay, so again, if what we meant was our first translation here for 5a, then we can rewrite the English sentence the way we have it in 5b. That will give us this expression in truth functional logic, which is equivalent to what we have here. When we have a double arrow, we can switch the order of what comes before and after the double arrow without changing the meaning. Okay, however, if our meaning was, if we wanted to capture this meaning that we have here, the second one we did for 5a, then there's not an easy way to express that in English. All right, now 6 is actually a little bit like 5a, but we don't run into a problem because instead of a biconditional, we're using a disjunction. Okay, so here we have, it is not the case that either Kate is at work and Joshua is reading, or Sarah is at the gym. Okay, so our disjunction is all of this. It is not the case that is going to apply to this entire disjunction. So we know that the not is going to come before parentheses that are around this entire sentence. Okay, now what's going on inside the parentheses? We have either Kate is at work and Joshua is reading, or Sarah is at the gym. Okay, so here we start again with a conjunction. Kate is at work and Joshua is reading. Or wedge, Sarah is at the gym. Okay, and then we want to put parentheses around this whole thing and the not outside those outermost parentheses. Okay, so this works fine in number 6 because we're using a disjunction and we can indicate where the disjunction starts with this either. We can't do that for the biconditional, so that's why we ran into problems here for 5a, but that's just the way it goes. Okay, hopefully those helped. If you have any questions, you can email me.